All right, guys. Well, Drew is struggling to get in here because he doesn't know how to use technology. So we're gonna get started without him, I guess, while he figures that out. Some of that drone footage that you just saw was footage from the event. I can actually still show it. Some of the different rivers, the stuff at the beginning was actually important because we'll go back to that here in a bit because that was actually on the lake that we're going to be discussing right here. So it was a very interesting event overall because the rivers played a huge role in the overall scores, but the lakes were kind of just like peltered in there every so often. So um, we're going to be interviewing Alex Miller, who is our Broodmaster here in just a bit, but I thought I'd kind of preface that while Drew's figuring out his camera and whatnot. Um, just that, like this right here, this is the lake. We'll talk about which lake that is if Alex wants to. I mean, he talked about it on stage, but we'll make him give up too much juice. But there were three of the biggest fish caught. Obviously all of Alex's, but then two other anglers caught giants off this particular lake. So it definitely churned them out. I think Alex may have been the only one who cashed a check on it though. So let's bring Alex in while we wait on Drew, and we'll kind of get started here. What's up, man?
Oh, how's it going?
Oh, just technical difficulties. We're kind of waiting on Drew here to get started. Always something when it comes to technology. So
Yeah.
we kind of talked about it a little bit. Obviously, everyone knows that Alex dropped a massive bag in this tournament. So we're not going to try to hide any of that. I think you have spoken about where you were.
Yeah.
Pretty publicly. So
it's no secret. I was contemplating before this event went on about talking about where it was, but it's no secret. I was on Conneaut. It's a whole natural lake. That's the cool part about that place. It's all natural. Has a bunch of eelgrass in there. I think there's like 3 different types of grasses. You have a bunch of boulders, and it's just
the water was the water was actually a little churned up.
Yeah.
I don't know how it was out there. I'm guessing a lot of that has to do with the boat traffic specifically, because when we actually ended up getting there while he was catching the fish, had no idea you were there, by the way. It was just complete luck that we actually, I'm going to share my screen here just so people see it. So we were down here, actually. Like we were coming up from where are we at here? I'm kind of disoriented.
Right now you're on next to Wilhelm.
Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so we came up here. We followed Sandy Creek. We're looking for people. We're going up Wilhelm. We get here to the Wilhelm Dam. There's a bunch of dead fish. I don't know what's going on with that lake. The whole lake looks awful. We make our way all the way up this, and we don't see anybody. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't we just take this north and see if we can hit some of these ones up here where there could be people, because I knew someone was at Woodcock because they told me, but I had no idea if anyone was at how do you pronounce that? Conneaut. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Conneaut. Drew had told me that, hey, this is a big blue beautiful lake. I'm like, okay, awesome, we'll go take some photos. So we get there, and my first reaction to this lake was, what is this, a mini Lake of the Ozarks? Because there's all these docks. We'll go to satellite. All these docks, all these boats just zipping up and down. I'm like, there's no way anyone's on this lake. And then we're sitting right here at the little tiki bar right here on the beach or whatever. And I look out and I can see all these kayaks, and I'm like, wait a second. So we fly the drone, and sure enough, it's you in your bona fide out there fishing. So it was a complete surprise that we ran into you on that day, but I'm glad we did, because we did get some drone shots. They weren't amazing because you're out in the middle of the lake. It's not very scenic, but clearly that's where the big fish were.
Yeah, and like you said before, the lake being turned up around this time of year, they start taking their boat and picking up all the grass that comes off of the lake. So around this time of year, it gets really, really murky. Like during the springtime, you have 5-6 foot of visibility, and you can pretty much sight fish year round there.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like during the springtime, you'll get, it's actually pretty funny. Every single year there is a certain dock that this exact smallmouth this comes to. She has grown. I have pictures of her for the last 4 years. She has grown about a quarter inch per year. I first caught her when she was like a 1975. Now she's up to a 2075. She sits on the exact same dock every single year. But yeah, the place has amazing smallmouth, and it's a super underrated largemouth fishery too. In the springtime, I've seen 7 and 8 pounders just cruising on the banks there.
Yeah, that's wild. This is actually where we were right here, maybe? Like right here. There's like a
Yeah,
little tiki bar or something that they just built. That
yeah,
was like right there. Yeah, there it is, right there, the tiki bar. And so we were looking out into the lake and we could see everybody fishing. I think Elvis's kid came into this marina, Tristan, and we took some photos. But it was an interesting lake because I think we spoke to Chad, for Chad Claypole, I think
yep,
is who we spoke to.
yep.
He was fishing along this edge, and he was telling us that the lake was a lot more churned up than it typically is, and it
Oh yeah,
tends to get like that in fall. I don't know if it was necessarily turned over or more so it was just a mixture of the boat traffic with that eelgrass dying. Because sometimes when that eelgrass starts to die, you get like a lot of debris and stuff in
yeah,
the water.
yeah. And the thermocline, like what made this event like a little bit interesting there was about this time of year you'll have a thermocline like 35, 40 foot of water, and it was in 25 for this whole event, which made it a little bit different from what it usually sets up. But yeah, that was one of the main things that I haven't noticed in years before. That it's just the turnover was just happening at a weird time this year.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I almost wonder if you don't hit it in the exact conditions it was in, if you catch those fish, because it's almost like it kind of forces those smallmouth that are more pelagic or whatever that tend
Mhm.
to live in the offshore into certain water,
They wouldn't have been grouped up as much. That's for
right,
sure. The schools that were like 15 to 25 fish have not been out there. Usually they sit in little wolf packs that are like 5 to 6 fish. And you'll go like 100 yards, you'll find a school. 100 yards, 100 yards, and like that, you just pull up on a spot and you'd have 15 to 25 fish just sitting there, not moving. They were like day one, they were hunkered down to the bottom. So you'd see one on active target, and then you throw something out there like a minnow or
hmm
a jig, and you'd see that one, and then you'd start working, and you'd see 7 to 8 more pop up off the bottom and start coming up and doing all that.
yeah. I honestly could have bet very good money that you were using a mooch minnow,
Yeah,
because when I was like, I wonder what he's using, I was like, I bet you he's using a mooch minnow. What
yeah.
was interesting is, now, correct me if I'm wrong here, I might be wrong. It
Okay.
looked like from the photos, were you using a darker colored mooch minnow, or was that just the lighting?
So I was using, what was it, green shad. I was
Yeah,
on day two. It was more of a mooch minnow bite. Day one, I only caught like I think 2 or 3 on the mooch minnow, and then um, they started acting real funky, and I switched over to a 5 inch Beast Coast Seduce minnow
right. I did
that just
remember
came
you
out,
saying that. Yeah.
and that worked. That seemed to generate a lot of big bites. But day two, they wanted nothing to do with that. But yeah, I was throwing green shad, Tennessee shad, and electric shad, just
Right.
depending on where the light was.
And a lot of people, it really wasn't surprising to me that you were doing well doing this, because I think you had a pretty good finish at Champlain too, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly. So
Yep.
like, I'm assuming you were doing something similar.
Yeah, and you know what's weird? I'm not a scoper. That is not what I do. Like, down at
Yeah,
Dale
well, you're
Hollow,
good at
yeah, like it's not. I enjoy doing it, but it's not like that's not my main thing I do. I am a shallow water power fisherman. Like Dale Hollow was amazing for me this year, just going out there in like a foot of water, flipping trees and stuff like that. But yeah, It was pretty much set up the same way. I didn't change really anything from Champlain um to Conneaut and stuff like that.
Yeah, there now. I did mention, I was talking to Chad. We kind of got like a little interview on the side of the water there, like as he was
Mhm.
fishing closer to the beach, and he was telling us that it is a really good largemouth fishery as well, which
Yeah.
I thought was interesting but not surprising, because it looked like it, had big largemouth. You can see there was one
Yeah.
giant one right there. So
Yeah, the largemouth, honestly, it's really aggravated me because I have not been able to put the pieces together on that largemouth deal up there. Because you'll in the springtime, everything's going up shallow, and you'll see it's like Lake Fork almost. You'll see a 5 pounder, a 6 pounder, another six, a seven. It's like I've been trying to break that 30-pound mark on Conneaut for like the last 3 years, but you need like two of those largemouth to do it. And
yeah,
I
and I
just
mean
can't
that
figure
one I
them
just
out.
showed, the one
No, yeah,
elder,
that's a tank up there.
that thing was probably around 6 pounds, I would imagine. If it's not,
Yeah,
it's close. It's
yeah,
like it looks like it's got the weight. It's got a giant head, dude.
yeah.
So
And like the thing is with this area, everybody, if you would come to here for like researching for a tournament, if you were looking for a single place to find a big largemouth, you'd go to Wilhelm. If you look at tournaments past, multiple 22s, 23s have come out of that lake. And which I was actually shocked you didn't see more people down there.
yeah, I mean there was a handful of people there when we drove around the lake, but um I think it was just you, your mom, and Chad were the main ones that we ran into besides the Lees. So I mean, there was
Yeah,
there was a good, 8 people probably that I know of. We watched some drone footage. You can actually see, and I don't know that I have that one still loaded, but um, you can see other kayakers kind of out there like floating around, which I
yeah,
don't know if they were in the tournament or not. That's kind of the hard part of covering the tournaments is there's a lot of just recreational fishermen like
yeah,
that have nothing to do with what's going on. I don't know that I have it on this hard drive, but I took this really cool photo of this angler on the river in the fog, right? And I'm like, oh, this
yeah,
is awesome. And I like zoom in later and I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a sec, this dude's fly fishing. He was just out there like fun fishing. He had nothing to
yeah,
do with our tournament. So but
but yeah,
yeah, I mean, clearly the lakes played a huge role in the winning, but like I do feel like the river actually did really well. Like Russ was on the
yeah,
river. Then you had Matt Ball was on. I think he said he was on Wilhelm. Big largemouth there. I was actually expecting Wilhelm. That'd be a little bit of a more of a player in this
yeah.
particular
I
one.
was too.
Then Colton, he was on the river. I think Josh was definitely on the river. Toby was on the river. And then I think Josh was on Wilhelm, he said as well. So
Yeah, I
like
think
there
so.
was a good balance. Like, a lot of people were like, "Oh, the lake dominated," which it did for sure. Like you
Yeah,
don't see 106 inches very often, but there was a lot of balance on what actually down the leaderboard kind of played out. So um
yeah.
I
The
don't
the
know.
river did show out, which I was actually pretty happy to see because I'm not a huge river rat, but that place this time of year, like going into when you start getting snow on the ground, it's awesome up there.
Yeah, I mean it was honestly one of the coolest sceneries that I've seen.
Yeah.
Just like the river and all the different like aspects of it. Like there's a very varied look to that river as you
Mhm.
start up north and make your way down. Um, Actually, I have a clip of
We've
this
been fishing
too.
through
I'm
here.
gonna mute it, but this is actually in one of the creeks.
Yeah.
It's like this area was pretty jaw dropping. You guys are lucky. It's like it's weird. It's like you guys are like right on the edge of the, I guess they call it like the Allegheny Plateau. So you're
Hmm.
not quite in the Allegheny Mountains, but it's like the little tricklings of it. So you get like a nice blend of different sceneries and stuff. I would love to be there when those colors change.
Oh, it's beautiful. It seriously is. It's like I take it for granted up here, but like you go from Oil City to Salamanca, New York, because that river goes all the way up to there, and it's probably one of the most beautiful drives you'll take during the fall. And even like the river, there's like I don't know, like three different sections that just look completely different. You have an area that looks like the Susky almost, and then you have kind of real skinny areas, and then you have the wide like slope holes. It's an awesome area though.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it looked like on the lakes when you guys launched on Saturday, but this was the river, and I think this might be one of the best clips I've ever captured. Now, this isn't fully
Yeah,
edited on covering the event because, like, I know that's like real short, but like the fog was this This doesn't even put it in perspective. This is me like editing out like 15 feet of fog just to
Yeah.
so that you can even see him fishing. But it was crazy. Like you could get lost in it. And I think
Yeah.
Steve was telling a story about how when him and Wally were fishing, they got split up in the fog and they couldn't find each other. It was so thick. So
Oh
kind of
yeah.
a wild, like surreal way of fishing. So
Yeah. Surprisingly, on at least on Conneaut, there wasn't any fog. Driving to there was a different story, but
I think it's because
our
it's a
wake.
little far north, so you're not
Yeah.
quite in that valley. You're more on the plateaus, and maybe it doesn't sink in as much. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I've never been up there, and I've never really experienced fog that thick. It's kind of wild. But anyways, enough about that. I do have a video I'll play here. I'll mute it so we don't have to necessarily listen to it. This is kind of for people curious of what Alex was doing out there. We already talked about the scoping aspect, but just to show you, like, it's not easy to just go out there and do this, because I want to point out something that a lot of people probably didn't pick up on. Look at how much wake is going, how many boats are shooting by him. It is extremely difficult to stay in position with live scope in a kayak.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Especially, yeah, especially without like your typical bow mounted motors, doing it with the torpedo. It makes it a little bit more difficult. I prefer it that way. But yeah, there was one point on Saturday morning that it was just ripping, and it's hard to
Dude,
stay
that's
on the
such a
fish, but
beast.
yeah, that one. I think that was one of the 21s.
I think that was the big one.
Oh yeah, it could have been. It was somewhere in that range.
Yeah. I
But
have it
yeah.
titled Big Bass, so
Oh, so if that's the video file that's titled as Big Bass, I sent it over to you guys. That's 2150.
that's insane. I would have loved to have seen you measure or weigh that one. It's
Oh,
got to be 6 or more.
yeah, I
It's
don't
hard
think
to say though, because smallmouth are deceptive. There's so much
they
weight
are.
in their density.
I will say my day one fish were heavier than my day two fish. My day two fish were longer, but they were skinnier. My day ones, they were just absolute footballs.
Yeah, and it's crazy how similar all the fish were. Like I was
Yeah,
like looking through some of them, and it's like they were all just like clearly these fish just get big, they stack up, and this is what they do all year.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
does Conneaut have like shad or what's their main?
So this time of year, they're feeding mostly on perch and alewife. That's kind of their main things. You kind of have more of your shad. I mean, there is some shad in Conneaut, but not as prevalent. It's like Wilhelm and Pymatuming and all those lakes. Like Wilhelm, you'll have shad that are 10, 11 inches there, like full on shad. But yeah, mostly they feed on the perch, and it was one of the only lakes inbounds that has zebra mussels. It's
Oh,
basically
really?
yeah. So that lake's full of zebra mussels. So I almost think of it as like a mini Lake Erie, in ways like that, because a lot of people may not know this. These fish are actually Erie fish. These smallmouth.
Yeah, I talked to multiple people about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, about how a lot of times in the spring, these bass boats will go up to Lake Erie,
Mm-hmm.
get a big bag, bring it back in there, and dump it in there. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
is illegal. It is illegal.
Yeah.
We'll do it anyways. I'm
Yeah.
not encouraging anybody to do that. But I mean, it does keep that gene pool
Yeah.
with those tanks, which is interesting to me because, like, I'm curious. Like, has Conneaut always had smallmouth, or was it bucket biology that stocked it, or is it the creek that put them in there? Like what?
At least since I've been fishing it, and that was, oh my God, 2015, 2016, since I really started fishing it, there's always been smallmouth in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, because a lot of those feeder creeks up there. So, like, I'm pulling the map back up here. A lot of those feeder creeks in there that dump out of Erie. I don't know if Conneaut's connected to Erie, but you'd be surprised how far up a smallmouth will go.
Oh, yeah.
I discovered them in central Illinois, like 30 miles from the Illinois River, which we don't even have them in the Illinois River down this far. I mean, they're in there, but they're not in mass quantities. But the quantities that do exist go up these little feeder creeks, and they just live their life in there. And you'll find them in spots that you're like, why is there a smallmouth here? Like hanging out with an Asian carp and a drum.
Yeah.
Which I know you guys don't have Asian carp up there, but usually when you see them, it's like, there's no smallmouth around here.
Oh, I know. Trust me, me and Asian carp don't have a good relationship. I've gotten smacked in the face by way too many down on Kentucky Lake.
Yeah. I actually almost got hit by one. Like, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I had one jump into the boat, and like if it would have jumped an inch more, it would have probably broken my rods that were laying out. But so you did a full YouTube video on this. I know Drew wanted to talk to us about this. I guess Drew's never going to show up. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat here so you guys can look at it. But and I'm gonna pull it up here as well. In just a sec. If you guys want to watch the whole thing, by all means, hop over to his channel. I believe it's just Alex Miller Fishing, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And just kind of let it play here while we talk. But you can see, Alex started off with just 20s, man. He didn't just go straight into the 20s ones. He had to find a way to call some of those pesky 20s, which is
it was kind of weird because I think I had 98.5 or 98 and a quarter within the first 28 minutes. And then it was like, where do you go from there? Because like when you're throwing back 20s, it's like, okay, you can't sustain that. But they showed up somehow.
I'll be honest, I was curious if you were even going to fish early. You had 102 and a quarter, I believe, after day one. In most scenarios, you're probably thinking like, "There's no way I lose," right?
I kind of figured after 102 that I pretty much had it, but
did you just dump one right there?
Yeah, that was about a 22.
Yeah, that was a beast. Hold on, I think we can slow that down. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, that's one of the only fish that came off, and that was like, I think in the first like 15 minutes.
That's crazy. What's your PB on smallmouth?
22 and a quarter.
Okay, so
from Conneaut. Yeah, a little over 6 something. It was like 6.2.
Jeez, that's a giant, man. Man,
yeah, that one hurt. That one definitely hurt.
Well, hey, you got a consolation prize by winning the event, right?
Yeah. That's what it was. I was given flashbacks to Champlain on that fish because that's exactly how Champlain started off, of just losing giants, and then you kind of had to work into them. But yeah, you can see, just immediately cast right back into that school and hooked up with another.
Is that what it was? Just a giant school of the same fish, and you were just following them around?
No, so they were hunkered down on spots. They were not roaming at all. They would sit down on. So on Conneaut, you have these little humps and stuff, and if you found the right area on the hump, they would just congregate on that area, and they would wait for bait balls or anything to just swim by, and then they'd go crazy. So you just sit there and you wait for them. So like on day 2, I ended up sitting there watching TikTok because I didn't want to leave the fish, but you need to let them rest. So I sat there for like 15, 20 minutes while and actually saw that fish spit up like an old alewife.
Yeah, that was interesting. I noticed that. I was like, did he get off? But it was. Let's see if I can slow it down. Oh yeah, it hit your kayak.
Yeah. You just sit there and you catch 2 or 3, and then you just let them rest, and you just keep on doing that. And I had 6 or 7 spots at schools. This exact school that I was fishing day 2, they got beat up and just completely disappeared. They broke up from the school, and there was just like one fish here, one fish there, and they kind of didn't want to cooperate, so you had to go back to different schools. And obviously that one on the south end of the lake ended up paying off, because that's where I think 3 of the 21s came from, was down on that south end.
Really? See, I had no idea where you were catching most of them. Probably for the best, because I'm sure somebody will figure it out eventually. But it was interesting to me the way this lake kind of played out, because it is like one of those glacial lakes. Like we looked at it on the map, and a lot of times with those glacial lakes, it's like you actually end up getting a lot of largemouth in the north end of the lake, and then
Yeah.
on the south end, closer to wherever it's kind of, I guess deeper or whatever, you see a lot of the smallmouth. But it almost looked like you were mid lake. So were you just kind of working your way up and down as you ran into different schools, or did you have
Yeah.
like
So
waypoints?
it was kind of, you're exactly right. That north end has a bunch of largemouth, especially there's a huge grass flat, and then you'll have a really hard grass line at about like 13, 14 foot of water. And usually that's where, if you're going to largemouth fish, that's where you're going to do it. And you're going to do most of your damage. But yeah, this school, I wasn't planning on starting one of them on day one. I just kind of, I'd like 15 minutes until, like, I think it was like 5 minutes until first cast. And I stopped, put the active target in the water, looked around for a second. I saw they were there and they were up in the water column and they were feeding. So I was like, we'll stop here and take a look. But most of my fish that I was planning on going to were mid to south end. That's where the really big schools were.
Yeah. Admittedly, I've never actually live scoped mini smallmouth on a jig head minnow. I've done one largemouth when I was down there for the Bassmaster Championship on
Yeah.
Lake Fork. I got one there. And I
Man,
live scoped my first ever on a jig head minnow. But smallmouth is intriguing to me because they are more of offshore creatures. It's like
yeah. And there
clearly,
was,
man, that is risky. I would never do that. I always see people do that. Like, not me.
yeah, I make sure I get the picture first, and then I just want to double check sometimes. But yeah, I think
No, I
this
mean,
is,
I don't blame you. I do not blame you because
yeah,
there's nothing harder when kite fishing is not always just the fishing. It's the fishing, the catching, and then the measuring, because
yeah.
measuring a smallmouth is a lesson in patience, as I'm sure anyone who's ever put one down on a board knows exactly what I mean.
Oh yeah, they were actually very mild mannered last weekend, which I was usually shocked at. Usually they are full of it and just want nothing to do with getting the picture taken. So they were actually pretty chilled out. I think I only had like two that gave me a real problem, but yeah, the
Yeah, I
whole,
you know, I noticed that the Alleghenies, because I mostly fished the Allegheny, a lot of the smallmouth were pretty chill compared to
yeah,
what I don't know if it was the time of year with the water dropping, maybe it just, but like they were way more cooperative than the Susky fish from like 3 weeks ago, or even like the upper Mississippi. Those upper Mississippi smallmouth were the meanest, angriest, riled up smallmouth I've ever dealt with in my life. So
yeah, yeah. They're usually pretty chill. That's what during the springtime. That's a spring and summer. That's a different story on that lake.
yeah. It's honestly a really cool narrative though, because like I don't think Conneaut was on a lot of people's radar as the place that was going to win it. Now I know Drew did say prior to the event, we were talking a little bit, and he thought that there was a good chance there could be some big ones caught out of it because it's like one of those natural lakes. Natural lakes tend to fish pretty good, I'd say. And I think you look at like Cayuga or any of the Finger Lakes or any, even like up by Champlain where they're constantly, it just seems like it's way more rich in nutrients when it's a
Yeah,
natural lake. Whereas those man-made lakes, they aren't as consistent. I mean, I think that's just because lakes tend to have a shelf life,
yeah,
especially when it comes to smallmouth. Like smallmouth need the deep, rocky, clear water to really thrive. Which when I first looked at Conneaut, I did not think I would never have been like, okay, this is a big smallmouth lake, but
yeah. Yeah, it's
apparently it
definitely a
was.
sleeper, and it honestly it doesn't get a lot of pressure from the kayakers, especially during your spring and summer months, just because there are a ton of boats. I mean, you will be sitting there and you'll have a jet ski flying past 25 yards away, wake boats everywhere. So you don't get a lot of pressure on that lake from the kayakers. Now, bass boats, that's a different story. There's always, I think, there's like a half a dozen or dozen tournaments per year on the bass boat side of that. But yeah, kayakers really don't mess around with that lake too much just because of the boat traffic there.
I'm trying to get this video working, guys. I don't know what's going on. My MacBook has a issue. You know that green light that comes on, for your camera? It
Yeah.
was on yesterday and it wouldn't go off. So I researched, like Googled how to turn it off, and then I did something. And then when it went off, And now when I got it off now, but now it won't come like back on. I've been chat GPT doing all this stuff, but anyway, it's kind of a pain. I might try to use my wife's computer. So,
Well, one of the cool like subplots of your win is that you fished with your mom.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool. I remember when you guys checked in, she was does she fish a lot of tournaments or?
Oh yeah, she fishes a bunch of them.
she was top female, I believe.
Yeah,
too.
she was the top female in the event, which is
Yeah.
cool.
We forgot. We didn't really forget. It just we don't have time to announce every single award, but she was top female. So
Yeah.
Lynn, congrats.
Yeah, and Alex, in case anybody's curious, took home literally every award that we could possibly give out for the individuals. So Big Bass Bling, first place, and he cross kick century belt. So that's pretty impressive. I don't know that that's happened yet or not. I can't remember. I don't think it has. I think you're the first time anyone has ever swept all three. I have to go back and
It's
look.
happened before.
Well,
In
because
Ocalapalooza, I think maybe or no,
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 because Eric Jackson won Big Bass in that
he
event.
did.
with
But I
that
thought
freaking
someone
13
had
pounder.
all of it. I thought one time someone had all of it on them.
Maybe Sholi Palooza is what
Yeah.
maybe that Aaron had it, but it's still cool nonetheless to take all
Yeah.
three. And then third in the team event. So
Yeah, that one hurts. So funny story. We kind of had some of the same fish. She doesn't have live skip, so she was doing a completely whole different deal. But we were fishing some of the same areas, and we ended up both ending up at this one school, and we were like, all right, we just need to catch you one fish at this point. Just get one. And she had an absolute tank on. I can 100% tell you I would have not been taking out Big Bass if she would have landed that one. It was a freak. So she lost like probably a 22.5 next to the boat. That was just
was
insane.
it a smallmouth?
Yeah, all smallmouth. Because during pre-fishing, we were kind of looking at stuff, and they were sitting real down to the bottom. So she was actually, when we were pre-fishing, I was having like 98. She would be at 99 to 100 because it was more advantageous to how she was fishing, like Ned rigs, jigs, tubes, stuff like that. But during the tournament day, they ended up just positioning a little bit differently. I mean, she still, I think, put up 70, 73 or 74 inches. But it was good. It was good enough for the third place. So I was super happy that we were able to do that together.
I think she maybe had 76. I can't remember, but I have the results right here. Let's take a look. Okay, you're right. 73 and 3/4. So, and it looks like she caught a lot of. Her big fish was actually a largemouth.
Yeah,
which is interesting. So
yeah, and that area that she was fishing was one of the areas that 25 yards away, all those smallmouth were sitting. So you have that. So kind of just to explain how it's set up, you have a little area out here that has a bunch of grass on it, 10 to 15 feet of water. And then you have a little bit of a contour that comes out and starts, it's just a gradual slope. And those smallmouth were just sitting right on that little slope, just waiting.
Huh.
So I mean, and they sit everywhere. I mean, you were finding fish from at least smallmouth from 5 foot of water out to 30.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Smallmouth are crazy creatures. Like they go from being these like shallow water, current focused, living creeks type creatures to being like, you know what? I'm just gonna get fat and sit offshore.
Oh yeah.
So, I think Drew had some questions, but it looks like we lost him again. What did you think overall of the event? Like, did you like that format? Because it definitely feels like you, on paper, you actually had a better Saturday than Friday.
Yeah.
You know, you had 102 inches on Friday, but you seem like I mean, I think you caught every 21 except for the big one on Saturday, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Saturday I had 104. Like if we're talking day 1, day 2, I think I had 104 or 105 inches on day 2. I think for my 2-day total was combined at 107 1/4. or sorry, 207.25. But yeah, this was my first KAS event that I was able to fish because I was planning on coming to the Susquehanna, but long story short, I ended up getting Lyme disease. Had Bell's palsy, was in a hospital, so I wasn't able to fish any of that. I actually didn't even know if I was going to be able to fish this event because of that. But yeah, so it was super exciting. Awesome setup, especially with like the theaters and everything like that. It was just an awesome place.
Well, as someone who's had the same scenario, it's not fun, that's for
No.
sure. But we did get some good pictures of Conneaut.
Yeah.
I'll share a couple of them here. That one's Chad out there. He was fishing a much different way than you were, at least when we ran into him. I don't know what he was doing later in the day, but he was definitely targeting those shallow water largemouth. And I always think it's cool when you run into a lake that is able to be that diverse, and it's a good representation of how healthy a fishery is. At least I think so.
Yeah, you can really win a tournament anyway out there. If you have a technique that you like to do, you can catch fish doing it out there.
Right. And it was the format on Friday, I almost feel like caters more towards the lake, because lakes tend to, you really benefit from the evening bite on a lake. I've always maintained that the rivers, I feel like they fish a lot tougher in the evening, at least everywhere I've traveled. Now, there are a few exceptions, and I do want to point out the Allegheny was one of them. But a lot of times in the evenings, it feels like the river kind of shuts off. And I've always wondered why that is. And I think it's because with lakes, those fish are more, they get a little bit more confident in the evening. I don't know why, but it just seems like that lake bite really heats up in the evening sessions. And that's why I've always been surprised when more people don't go to the lakes for just that section and then pivot towards the river. Obviously you didn't need to pivot, but people who are less on fish, like, I think there's some cool strategy you can do with the evening sessions.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked that we didn't see more largemouth on that evening session, especially with how those rivers set up that you could go out there day 2 and have like a full float plan. Especially with how small the lakes are, you can cover a lot of water in the 3-4 hours that we were fishing on Friday.
Yeah, I actually I don't know if I have it on here. I had a interview with John Klein, kind of talking about that, because at that point, day one was set in stone. We were kind of just at the ramp talking, and I was like, everybody thought largemouth was going to dominate, and then it turned out that no, smallmouth were dominating, and everybody in the top, I would say top 10, tended to be on that largemouth bite, at least on Friday. And then as we got into Saturday, you started to see people creep up the leaderboard, like Josh Sims. You saw Matt Ball caught some big ones. You saw, Elvis caught that giant largemouth. You saw some more largemouth starting to pop up, which surprised me, because I was expecting Friday to be like, okay, people went to the lakes and caught a bunch of largemouth, and it was honestly the exact opposite. But you never know. You can't make the fish bite, and you're kind of at the mercy of whether or not they are going to be involved.
There's a few lakes that act real weird during the evening. Like Pymatuming, for example. If you're there for the first hour and a half this time of year, it's amazing. Don't worry about fishing anytime after that, though, there, because it is literally dead. And then it's like that for the rest of the day. But that first hour and a half on Pymatuming is special.
Yeah, and that was, I think, one of the other underlying narratives that I was surprised by. I don't know this, because we don't judge our own fish. We outsource that, so someone else is the one looking at them and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone was on that lake, and everyone leading up to this event said that's where it's going to get won. That's the lake. That's the big player. And from what I heard, I don't know if anyone fished it. So if anyone's in here that did fish it, let me know. But everyone I talked to said, "Oh, it's been fishing like trash."
Think
Turned
there
it
was
over.
one person at awards that was inside the top 10 on the individual side that said he was fishing Paimatumi. I
Okay.
think there was one person, but like you said, that I am shocked that it wasn't a bigger player, because this time of year you can go by in some of those creeks and take your net and scoop up just a ball of shad, a ball of threadfin. They just start flocking into there, and it gets, especially if you're like a topwater guy. Oh, it's some of the awesome topwater bites on like a ribbit or horny toad up in
That
there.
sounds fun to me.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of really, really unique and diverse lakes around here for sure.
Yeah, the area definitely surprised me because the river itself has a lot of giants on it. I
Yeah.
think that if we would have been there like, I don't know, end of September, early October, you probably would have seen more of those mid 90s to upper 90s bags. I think upper 90s is possible, like 97, 98, because you got more than one day. You've got
Yeah.
that Friday session, and then you've got the Saturday session, and I think hitting that on the river was doable because I actually went out with a guide on the river. We didn't even have any fishing poles, just to like film,
Yeah.
right, on Saturday morning. And he was telling us that the bags on there to win tournaments now, you need at least like 23, 24 for
Mm-hmm.
best 5 weight wise to win those tournaments, where before it's like if you had 16, 17, 18 inches you would win. So the Allegheny is definitely on an upswing. And my personal experience just floating down the river, I could see a lot of those 20, 21s. You just couldn't get them to
Mm-hmm.
bite. It
Yeah.
was so clear. It was so low. A lot of people didn't figure out what they were quite eating. There was a massive bug bite, though.
Yeah.
If you were good with the bug lures, the little gizmos, which have one hanging up back there somewhere. If you could finesse those, you could get some really big bites when they normally just would ignore it. So
Yeah. Yeah. If we were here like first week of October, that Allegheny would have been so much of a player, because there's a few areas that they just sit up on, and you take a blade bait, a lipless, a tube, and you'll get those 95, 98-inch days there.
no, I don't think you catch 106, but
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't think 106 was possible in 2 days there. In all honesty, I thought, okay, we can get 102, 103. 106 was just, it was insane to say the least. Like,
I was curious if you were going to beat the record because it was getting close. I just don't. You kind of hit a ceiling with smallmouth.
yeah,
Like you almost need like 2 22s to even get close to that, because I don't even know what you were going to call. Let's see. So your smallest fish was a 20, 22, 27.5.
yeah, yeah,
So 421 plus a 27.5. So you would almost need to call that with like a 22 and change to even, if you
yeah,
had a 22 and a quarter, I think you could maybe start sniffing at that 107.
yeah. That's what it, like, around the time that I hit 106, it was like, okay, we got like 3 hours left. And I was like, I don't think it's possible. Like, you can, when you're using active targets for long enough, you can kind of get a gauge of how big these fish are. And they were getting more pressured as the day went on. So, like, you weren't catching as many of those 21s. You were catching the 20s, 20 and a quarters, 20 and a half. And I was like, it's probably not happening. As much as I would love to beat Florida largemouth with northern smallmouth, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah. Looks like Drew maybe figured out his scenario.
No, not really. I mean, I'm still on my phone, but the computer, I have to go like to Apple Diagnostics or something. If there's like some major problem, I've been chat GPT trying to figure it out. Either the green light stays on or it's off and nothing works. Not FaceTime doesn't work. Nothing works from that camera on my MacBook. But anyway, sorry, Alex. But I guess you guys have kind of covered a lot of it and showed off your footage and the video, but definitely wanted to get you on and say, congratulations.
I appreciate
Just
it.
like I've never seen anything like that. I don't think we really even understand, probably fully comprehend how big of a gap of just a blowout kind of win that was, and how
13
to
inches.
to appreciate that. You know what I mean? That's not
Yeah.
that's just so not the norm. But most tournaments that are won, even though they're not won by that much, they are typically won with a needle in a haystack type find by one angler, by one person generally. So it's not out of the norm, of course, for someone to just say, "Man, it was you just kind of found them," and the other people are working their butts off all tournament to try to catch up, maybe get even close to finish second, third, or fourth. It just happens to be this time you kind of blew out the field, but it was amazing. It shows off the area really well, and we're going to talk more about this. And obviously, Jake, we're going to do more podcasts and live streams where I've got better get this camera issue figured out. But yeah, just huge congrats, man. I'm so glad that you filmed it all. You got it on there with your YouTube video. We can show off, GoPro. Even the Hero 7 looks great.
Yeah, we watched a lot
Yeah.
of we watched a lot of
Awesome.
the video and just kind of
Yeah,
his big fish. We talked about this, which is we still got it pulled up.
unreal.
Look at that thing.
Yeah, it's just unreal, man.
Height of the day too. Look at that sun. It's just out there blazing, and he's out there catching giant smallmouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool that, like, if you look back, we were trying to do this kind of just quickly at the after party, and we looked back at the total KAS this year, and it was kind of like, how many were won on lakes and how many were won on rivers? And it actually was probably skewed a little bit in the lake favor by like one or two events. But if you look at the top 10 was pretty even, if not maybe 60-40 river or creek or moving water. So I think
we talked about that
KS
actually.
is working. I'm thinking you guys have probably covered a lot.
Yeah, it was lake, river, river. That's your top 5, and then river, lake,
Yeah.
river. So it was like, I definitely think like the best. If you took the top 20, I definitely think it leaned more into the river, and that probably is more people wanted to fish the river.
Right.
Let's be
real. They were on it. Yeah.
But throughout the entirety of KES, it's always been very even. Like, I don't really feel like it's been super lopsided, with the exception of Florida. But Florida's a weird one because it's kind of like all that area in Florida is just like backwater, skinny anyways. It's like even the lakes are like...
Well, Texas, it was all lakes.
Yeah, we didn't really... Yeah. I mean, if you're on a river in Texas, you probably are... not winning, but
at least those rivers where we were, the guys figured out quickly that was not going to be the play. So yeah, it was a cool event, and it also was cool that that you won with technology and live scope, because we are all about diversity, and because of our format the way it is, you'll probably agree, Alex, but it's just kind of cool that, like, you can go do what you did and other people could still compete and go do what they did. Now you might say, well, they didn't compete, well, of course only one person is going to win. But a lot of guys who were not using any technology were in that top 10. So they were still competing, cashing checks, and it's real even. To me, there's this big debate about live scope and what we should do about it. To me, it's more like you change the other format to help the other anglers who don't prefer using technology in live scope, especially in kayak fishing. You change your format to give them a little boost, a little advantage, because they're going to need it. They're going to need it with how good that technology is, and you show that. They're going to need it. And so that's what we've done by allowing anglers to access wherever they want publicly, rivers and creeks and just backwaters and wild places where you don't need the technology. Is the only way to really combat the technology and still allow it to be in the event as well. And then more people can come to the event, so we can have 300, 400, 500 people in these things.
Yeah, and I think like Russ didn't even have a fish finder on his kayak.
Yeah,
exactly. All he had was the Torpedo.
That's it.
Yeah, and we have an interview with him that I played part of it, where he kind of talked about that. I played it a little bit during the wars. He had forgotten it, so he was like, "Well, guess I'm going to the river."
Yeah, and you had a Torpedo too. Now, how tough was that to live scope? Did it just work out where the conditions just weren't windy enough? It just worked out perfectly for that motor to be able to use it.
I prefer having a Torpedo for live scope. It's just a weird thing. I've always had a Torpedo, and the whole bow mount thing, how I fish, it would just, having a bow mount would get in my way. massively.
Right.
So, but like being able to stay up on the fish and actually have like that instant thing to just be able to turn real quick and just go and keep up with them, it makes a huge advantage. And honestly, the wind doesn't make that big of a deal for it. You just have to position yourself like at Champlain, you just position yourself into the waves and you just put it on 100 watts, 200 watts, and you just hold it right there. And especially with foot control steering, you can just stay right there and stay locked on them.
That's cool, man. Very cool. Well, you may need to get going. I'm not sure, but Jake, do you want to? I can control, even though my computer's not working with the camera. I can put up the other the schedule for 2026, and we could talk about that. Alex, you can
Is
stay
it on the
on. You can
website
hop
or?
off.
Yeah, probably gonna hop off here. Gotta
buddy.
get some stuff ready for Toledo Bend here soon. So.
Oh yeah, well, I'll see you there, man. You going?
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
down there? All right.
I appreciate you guys and everything.
Yep. Thanks for stopping by.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks again, man. Congrats.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, our Broodmaster. So
if you give me a sec, I can pull it up.
Well, I can pull up the my screen here, and I can show you guys the corrected version as well, because we did have to change one date, guys. Sorry, I'm kind of going down with a little something if I sound a little sick here. Got some inflammation going on, and that event, man, wore me out. Okay, so I've got all these right here. I'm going to pull them up on my computer and share them. Maybe. If it'll let me. Just so I got a lot of stuff going on with this stuff right now. I don't know why. All right, let's see. Let me share my screen. Share image file. I think it'll share all these at one time. Let's find out. Okay, they may be out of order. Or they might just share one. Let me try something else, guys.
We can just do them one at a time.
Well, I can't even get that one to move. That's the problem right now. But here we go. This is probably it here. Okay, let me click on remove this one and add this one. See if this one will work now. I've got a bunch of weird error messages going on, like from Chrome, from everywhere. It's just weird, Jake. All right.
Time for a new computer.
Tell me if, yeah, maybe. It just quickly, we had one correction on a date. It's probably going to get changed here.
It's this one right here. The New River was moved up to May 15th and 16th from the original date, which was the weekend after, which was, so Memorial Day is a weekend earlier in next year. Typically, it feels like it's always at the end of the month, but because of the way the month is, it's the weekend before. So,
yeah, I still cannot figure this thing out. It's hard because I got to hold this phone too. But that did get changed. Most likely that'll be the date here. I just don't understand. They're all coming up separately.
I know a lot of people probably would have been like, oh, I'll fish Memorial Day weekend, but truthfully, like from a logistical standpoint, being there on Memorial Day weekend causes a lot of like headaches, I think, personally. Like, it's not more the fishing, it's like, you know, parking, lakes are more crowded.
Yeah.
It's just overall just a little bit more difficult. So, plus not everybody would be able to necessarily come on Memorial Day. So,
exactly.
Ryan Van Tine was hoping to celebrate his birthday on that Saturday.
I'm just going to share my entire screen here. All right, how about that? You got that? There we go. Technology is kicking at my tail today, dude. I have no idea what's going on. But anyway, Tallahassee is where we're starting March 27th and 28th. Then we're going to that. Is this in the right order? No, it's not in the right order. Where's our? I'm missing Indiana on here. Oh, there it is. Okay, after the March, we're going to somewhere in Indiana. We're talking to a couple other cities now about it. So hang tight, Indiana. We're going to try to get something happening there so we get that great Midwest of us too. And then
You'd be
April
surprised how
24th.
difficult it is to schedule these guys.
Yeah, you would be. We did have a good relationship. So I tell you where it's not going to be in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is where we were hoping.
Lafayette,
But
Indiana, not
or
Louisiana.
Indiana, dude, I say that every time. Sorry. But Lafayette.
Because if it was in Louisiana, it would be pronounced Lafayette.
Yeah, it's not going to be there. We'll be in a different town. But the guy who works with the tourism there, he just took over that position. The girl who we were talking with was doing a great job and was excited about it. But then she left to go take on another job, and so he just got on board. It's just too complicated for them to kind of figure it out this quickly. So maybe we go there again some other time, but not going to be there. It will be April 24th and 25th, which we know wherever you're at in Indiana, it's going to be pre-spawn. Like by then, they're not spawning yet. In April 24th, 25th, it's going to be pre-spawn. The water's going to be in the 50s, probably mid 50s, maybe upper 50s. They're almost going to be spawning. So I think we're going to catch some really big fish. Maybe we get some weather that's in the 50s or 60s. Maybe we get lucky and it's 75. You never know. It's late April in the Midwest. So either way, it's warm enough to get on the water and be fishing. That's for sure. This is all out of order. So then after that, we'll go to, then that would be the next one at the New River Revival, May 15th and 16th. And then that's going to be awesome. Just incredible. And then the next one is the Junior Otter Regatta, June 19th and 20th. And then after that is August 28th and 29th, the Bronze Quest on Green Bay, which we talked about that on stage. It might change. The name of that might change, but not the dates. And then that's it until the finale, Broodstock 3, Journey on the Cumberland. But while I've got this up, I will take you guys over here. If you guys can see this. So I was working on the maps. Let's see if I can open a map. Recent. Here we go. Look at my recent ones. I was working on the map. So let's start with Tallahassee real quick. We'll just go real quick on this because I know I hopped on late. But some of you guys still in here watching probably are interested. So this is kind of like your maps. They'll go on the website pretty soon along with the schedule. But this is kind of what we're looking at for the Tallahassee. So every purple is a lake. So there's 10 lakes. Some of them are small. There's only one that's really a good size, which is Talquin right here. So Lake Talquin, you guys can start researching this stuff now. Lake Jackson, which is always up and down with water because it kind of drains out some sinkhole. You got this Carr Lake right here just north of
Florida's
Jackson.
weird, man.
It is weird. Florida's weird, which is it makes it fun. Lake Lamonia. I don't know. Lake Lamonia. Then you got this small one right here, Lake Hall. So we like small lakes to be included too because that's kind of like what a creek is to a river angler, a small lake is to a lake angler. So it's kind of cool to have the small ones. The furthest one away is probably over here. One of the furthest. This what's this one called? If I zoom in, Lake.
What's the river that runs out of
Miccosukee?
Talcon. It's like
Talcon is the Ocklackney. Yeah, the
Ocklackney.
Ocklackney. And then this right here is there's in town. There's a Lake Lafayette. Speaking of Lafayette, and a Piney Z Lake that's just kind of right here in town. So, yeah, Lafayette Lake and Piney Z. You got a small lake down here around Panacea, Lake City Lake called Otter Lake. It's going to get in bounds. And then the last last couple are up here. The far northwest,
and then we also
I-10 helps us get a little bit further to the northwest, and you got it
right. And then we have the lake.
Pond.
We have the lake coming out of Seminole, right? Isn't that, or not the lake, the river? Sorry.
No, well, yeah, but we're about to get to those rivers. The last lake here is Merritt's Mill Pond. I've not confirmed. Yeah, there's the public boat ramp right there. So that might be only public boat ramp. This is a big, long mill pond, which goes all the way to basically the highway here where it comes out, or the water comes out.
That's a
But
weird
speaking of
looking.
rivers, a long mill pond there. Now, here's what's wild. And everything that has the red triangle, that's your upstream or downstream launch boundaries for rivers, those red triangle symbols. But this right here is, of course, the Chipola River. As you can see here, this is the Chipola River. So all your kayak symbols that are marked in blue are rivers. Again, all purple is lakes, rivers are in blue, teal, and your boundaries, launch boundaries, upstream or downstream, are in red. So you're going to be able to fish a good chunk of that Chipola, and of course you can go up or down, below those launch boundaries. Now, what makes the Chipola unique? Do you know what makes it unique, Jake?
It flows an opposite way of the rest. I don't know.
No, it has shoal bass in it. So,
Oh, is that the one with shoal bass?
yeah. Far west river, you can come to, obviously to Tallahassee and not cross the shoal bass off your list. Look, I don't know if you're going to win it. It can be one out of this river or not, but I will say you can catch shoal bass, and they get big. So, whoops, what happened to my camera? All right, sorry, I accidentally hit it with my knuckle. So let me quickly go over the rivers real quick. You can look on the list to the left here. I'll just scroll down, and it'll highlight them when I go over them.
So does it have shoal bass like all the way down it?
Probably not. I don't know if they're like all the way down it, but they probably spend time with the way shoal bass move. They probably have times where they are all the way down it and even get into the Apalachicola. It's the world record until it was recently, I guess, tied or whatever happened with that. If that's correct, maybe that's the Georgia record, but the world record was caught below the Apalachicola Dam, Lake Seminole Dam. So Lake Seminole, it's worth noting, is not in bounds for this event. We're going to keep everything here in Florida for the most part. It looks like everything's kind of in Florida. And we just didn't want all the history in Lake Seminole. Only a part of the lake is really, an hour or less back to Tallahassee. So it just makes it complicated when you only got to put in a few ramps on one lake that's that big. Plus, we have a lot of history there. People do, and we want to make this new and fresh. That's the way KAS is. But yeah, they're all the way down there, and there's some that could be in the Apalachicola, but you're really mainly going to catch them in the Chipola just because Apalachicola had so much dredging done for barges to get through that the rocks are all gone. If rocks are gone, they don't really have good spawning habitat, so they don't reproduce naturally. But they do reproduce naturally in the Chipola, and of course, I think they also probably get some supplemental stocking, but they do reproduce naturally, and there is a fishable population. If you go there and you catch 20 fish in the right sections, I think the majority of them are probably going to be shoal bass if you're in the right sections. So let me just
sign me up.
So that's the Wasissa River. You got the St. Marks and the Wakulla River, which are down here. So what's unique about the St. Marks and the Wakulla, they kind of come together right here at the town of St. Marks. A couple things to note. The St. Marks River, they're all kind of spring-fed rivers that if you keep going up, this is weird, guys. You've never experienced this area. If you keep going up in these rivers that come in from the ocean, a lot of them, they just all of a sudden stop. Like, it looks like they stop, but they're actually coming up out of the ground. So there's all that limestone and the sinkholes, and so the rivers run underground for a while, and they come back out of the ground. But right here at the rise, this river goes all the way free-flowing to ocean. But you can still fish other parts of this river that are publicly accessible that are, like these little sections that just pop up and go back down. See what I'm saying? Isn't that weird? They'll just disappear under the ground and then come back up. So that's kind of weird. Another thing it's interesting about this St. Marks River, right about here where my cursor is, Jake, there's a YouTube video of me going viral where a goose attacked me. So that's where it happened. So anyone who's curious about that. And I can't see the comments. It's hard to do this on my phone and do all this, but the goose attacked me there. And then both these rivers, hopefully this is not true, but I did hear that the Swanee bass may not really be in this Wakulla River anymore. They were, illegally put there at one point and were thriving. But because of the hurricane last year, probably one of the ones that knocked us out, they may, this is a short river here. This is I think it's like 11 miles. This is the Wakulla River. Comes up out of the ground right here this spring, and then you just see it's very short. It just goes right here, and then you're already in saltwater. Right at this US 98 bridge, you can catch redfish and bass at 98. So there's TNT Kayak Rentals. Rob over there is a great dude. He'll help you out, get you shuttled, get you access points. So call Robert. But anyway, that river, hopefully the St. Mark's still has a population longer of the Swanee bass. But you should be able to catch Swanee bass. So shoal bass and Swanee bass. And of course, largemouth are going to win this thing. So it's a pretty cool, unique area.
Hey,
those are two rivers.
You never know.
You never know. You never know. And this river
You
right
just need
here,
5 22-inch shoal bass. You're good to go.
that's right. It's a smaller river called the Sop Choppy. Again, when they're small, that short, and they go into the ocean, I don't really know what they offer you, but you're welcome to go check it out. Then you got the Aglockney River right here. It's the one that flows out of the dam, Tahquin, like you were saying. The Aglockney, right?
Yeah.
I probably need to put an upstream launch boundary on the Aglockney, actually, because it comes out of, like, Georgia. So we'll probably get up there near that border or whatever, wherever. The other rivers, now this is the crazy wild river here, the Wasissa. This one comes out of spring fed. We're not going to go this in depth with every one of these events. We'll have another show about this, but I at least want to let you guys see a little bit about it. But this one comes out of the ground right here. And there's another spring that's up here that comes, But the Wasissa is just super, super wild and remote. Look at this, just wilderness. And there's just a bunch of islands and just real spring-fed, snaky. Some blackwater creeks keep dumping into it. Just be careful when you get to, I think it widens out down here, this place called the Goose Pasture. There's a campground there. But when you go down below here, it just weaves into the woods. It's right here, there's something called the Slave Canal. Now, if I zoom in far enough, it'll pop up somewhere. That might have been it there. But it's actually called the Slave Canal. And back in the day, there it is right there, Slave Canal. It's hard. It's marked. It's hard to find, but you can make your way out of there into the Alcilla River, which is also a river that's in bounds, which I don't know if I've even marked that one yet. I haven't even marked that one yet. The Alcilla is also in bounds, but those are just wild, wild rivers there. And just be careful in that Slave Canal area, that swamp, that it's really, really, like, people have gotten lost in there. It's really, but there are bass all in there. So we're checking out. It's a fun experience. So that's that one. We're going to open up another map. One's here. We'll try to do the next one. The Great Midwest of us, we don't know yet. So let's do, these are really simple. The New River is very simple. You got a couple lakes in play here. There's just 3 lakes. And again, I have to do all my research still and figure out if they're all, public lakes. I'm pretty sure this one is Gatewood Lake or Gatewood Reservoir. That's right there. Obviously, you've got Clater Lake, and then you got this other small one called Hogan Lake. This is the one I'm not sure if that's public or not, but right now I've got it marked. And then you've got Clater, which is the main lake. And then other than that, this is basically a New River tournament. And the boundaries will go all the way down right now to just southwest of Galax, Highway 58. Got it. So that's right. Freeze is right up here. There's that area, Freeze and Timmy Dixon, and he's got a shop there.
No big ones there, guys. Just get out of that section.
Yeah, this whole section all the way to Clater Lake. Yeah,
they just caught another 23
there's
plus
going to be
on
big
New
ones
River
caught
last week.
Jeez. And then, of course, this is a popular section below Clater Lake. My back? You got me?
Yeah, we do now.
Okay. This section below Clater Lake is super popular, all the way basically up to the Virginia border. So right there. So basically the West Virginia border. That ramp right there, Glen Lynn. And then, of course, you got some smaller, the Little River, and then other creeks too. So that's that one. And then let's go to the next one. Recent. The Juniata Regatta. This will be interesting because people are probably curious about what we're going to do. And right now is the way I've got it set. There's several lakes in bounds as well. So again, we've seen what can happen at these lakes. And in June, when right around the spawn, so you got Bald Eagle Lake, 45 minutes away. Pretty good sized lake. And then you got one called Walker Lake up here, a little smaller lake, and then one that's even smaller called Failer. Those are your lakes. There might be one more somewhere. Raystown Lake, of course, which is the main bigger lake for this event, Raystown Lake.
Does Raystown hold smallmouth? I gotta imagine it does,
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah, I'm sure. There's a little lake called Pullman Lake down here that's also interesting. So those are your lakes for the lake guys, and then for the river.
Oh,
There, I was getting a phone call. So what I've got going now with the rivers, you'll see you've got Sherman's Creek is inbounds. Anything coming off the west, Mahatango Creek. It's a small
Pins
creek, but
Creek
you never know.
represent.
Pins Creek. Those are the three main creeks along with the Juniata River that are in bounds here. But if you go, what's interesting is you'll see if you go close to all these creeks dump in. Internet. I don't know why. Technology just isn't liking me today. But if you go all the way, so right where the access is, Creek access, you can see we've got just a little line there, just showing you can fish the tip of that, that water where the water comes in, you can fish all that, but you just can't go below, basically that access. But you can certainly fish, the point and all that right there, that little island. So we don't want people to go out in into the Susquehanna. That way it keeps it Juniata, it keeps it the lakes, it keeps it all that area. And then I haven't finalized all this, but this is kind of what we're looking at now. I think that's what we're going to do though. This keeps you a boundary right when you get out of this is Mahatango Creek. So you got a little small section here you can kind of dump out and fish basically where it's still just that creek on the other side of the island right here. And you can fish the head of these, islands right there, but you got to turn around. So it's going to be interesting to see.
There's tons of water in the
Now down
Juniata
here where
too.
the main Juniata comes in, you got a little bit more of like a mile, maybe a mile and a half section because you got Sherman's Creek that comes in right here, and you got the Juniata. So you can fish Sherman's Creek to Juniata, basically. All that whole section in the river, and that bridge is a nice boundary, hard boundary. You guys can tell. And then this one's kind of like stay within 100 foot of the line across the river where that creek comes in, Sherman's Creek. And then it's mainly we want to just get everything to the west side coming in. We just want this to be a Juniata tournament because trust me, guys, in June on that river and all those creeks, you guys are going to catch big ones. It's just different. That's kind of what I got it looking like right now. And all this again, subject to change, but this is just kind of what we're thinking. Next one I'll show you guys is maps here. Bronze Quest on Green Bay. Basically, it's like all the rivers that come into Green Bay on the west side. You got them starting at the top, and you're going to be able to fish actually the main lake if you want. However, we are going to put some restriction in about how far out you can go, whether it's a mile or we just have certain accesses or what. I don't know. We have to figure that part out. So you guys can chime in on the comments of what you want on that. But that's called the Ford River, and there's some that aren't even listed. They're just smaller. But Cedar River. You got, of course, the Menominee River, which makes the border of the Upper Peninsula, and Michigan and Wisconsin. The Peshtigo River is the one below the Menominee. The Oconto River. Saying that wrong, I'm sure. And then your boundary will be down there where Green Bay, basically where the interstate is right here. This Deerfield Docks launch, I guess. It looks like a launch, yeah. We'll find out. It's called Deerfield Docks, but basically there's a creek that comes in called Duck Creek, I guess. And there's a lot of good largemouth fishing there in the area if you've ever watched any pro tournaments. And good smallmouth offshore, but great smallmouth, on all these rivers. And then also the lakes inland are going to play. This one's going to be like, I don't know, man, so much water to just figure out what you want to do. There's a lake called White Potato Lake that we got in bounds. High Falls Reservoir, Lake Naquaby, Shaky Lakes Chain, and North and Hayward lakes. So quite a few lakes you can see as you zoom in. They're good sized lakes. I mean, they're gonna have awesome smallmouth fishing, largemouth fishing in them. See over here, they got these interesting shaky lakes. So that'll be just a crazy wild event. I mean, who knows what's in some of these places, like over here, this Hayward and North Lake. There's just one little access to this bridge.
The North can have really good
So,
smallmouth
looking
fishing,
forward to that
or
one.
largemouth fishing,
The
rather.
last one that we're going to show is one that's well, I haven't even finished this one. I haven't even finished this one, Jake. But what I do have so far is those places we did the Crescent Smalley promo video on some of these like lakes that right up the Cumberland River, like this
Creek.
Elk Creek. You
Don't
know,
tell John; he'll get excited.
The Cross Creeks, wildlife refuge areas. So a lot of these that are never in balance for national tournaments are going to be in balance for us, along with the actual, Lake Barkley. Some of it, I guess. I don't know how far we'll restrict you guys from Clarksville. Probably be some restriction to how far, but basically, Lake Barkley, the lower, I guess, upper half, and then Cumberland River and anything that feeds into it. So I don't have it all marked yet, but that's kind of the way it's looking now. I'll start marking those today, and we'll get them on the website. So let me see if I can stop sharing my screen. So there we go. That was kind of the schedule.
Yeah, JT said he's still hunting in his 20, so plenty of opportunities this year once he's back 20, on the saddle.
Are you talking, Jake? I can't hear you. Maybe.
Yeah, you might just be muted. I can hear you.
No wonder. I was talking the whole time, never heard anything. I think you're muted on my end somehow. I don't know why.
But there's plenty of opportunities for JT to catch that 20.
Here, I can hear you on the headphones. We should just end this. This is a cluster.
Well, we got through everything we needed to do, so.
Yeah, I guess so. I can barely hear this on my other. Now I'm echoing myself. This is just weird. I gotta put this down. Take us out, Jake. Show something or say something.
Yeah.
We'll redo this. Schedule some other time.
That is a wrap on this episode. We talked to Alex, kind of went over the whole Broodstock stuff. We're gonna log off here. I'm gonna leave you guys with this. But otherwise, I would say that was probably our most successful. We've only had 2, right? But that was a really successful Broodstock. So I don't know. Drew's gonna. Nope, he's gone. All right, we'll catch you guys next time.